When I started a business 3 years ago, I did not expect to be sitting here so soon after starting the business, saying that I was closing it down. I feel like I've had a lot of mixed feelings on growing a small business, and a lot of which I didn't really talk about, which is why I wanted to make this video to explain my experience of growing a small business, my story of growing a small business, how it happened, why it happened, my thoughts, feelings, everything in between, why I stopped enjoying it so much, and what finally solidified my decision to shut down the thing that I'd been dreaming of doing for the past 6 years. So this is going to be a story time video, but I am going to be doing some art through it because I figured it would be a little more interesting than just sitting staring at my face the entire time. But the artwork is actually not important to the story at all. It's just something for you guys to watch. So it's kind of hard to start a story that feels like it has so many elements to it, so I'm just gonna start at the very beginning. Why did I want to start a small business? So when I was growing up, when I was a kid, 10 years old or whatever, I feel like everyone had that one thing they wanted to be. I did not. I just didn't actually have a clue of what I wanted to be, which is fine when you're young, but I felt like everyone else at that age kind of had something that really seemed to interest them, whereas I didn't. I was just a bit of everything interested me instead. So when I was 15 years old and I found that I really liked doing art and I started getting into, actually learning and practicing art rather than just doodling in a notebook during school hours, I just felt like I had a purpose. And that's not to say I didn't have a purpose beforehand, just because I didn't have a hobby that I really liked, but it just felt so right. It was such a good way for me to turn off my brain, to get creative. I loved creating characters and doing concept art. It was just so much fun. I'll be honest with you guys, at that stage in my life, 14 to 15, the big thing I wanted to be when I was older was a YouTuber. And in my head, that was gonna be doing video games, but I really started to enjoy art and it kind of became the center of my life. I went to university for animation thinking that it would help me get into a creative field because I just couldn't imagine not having my life be centered around art. Some people, when they do art, they do it as a hobby. They'll come home after their 9-to-5 job and they do art and they're fine with that. Me, I didn't want that. I did not want a job that I'd have to suffer through all day just to get my reward at the end of it. I wanted to be able to enjoy art all day, every day, constantly. So I kind of started going down a more creative path. I still wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with my life. At this point, I still was very interested in content creation and I was very interested in art, but in terms of what I actually, what that was going to look like as a job in the future, I didn't know. I did animation, but I kind of just did it because it was the only thing I could think of that was going to be artsy enough that I would potentially enjoy, but I don't think animation was for me. I think I like, more than anything, maybe the storyboarding part of it, maybe the concept, the character concept art and stuff, and creating the characters and the world building and doing that part of it rather than the actual animating. It was very fun. I just don't know if I would have liked it as a full-time job. Also, it's a very competitive field to get into, and I realized that very quickly. It's impossible. When people ask for entry-level experience, what they mean is they want you to have at least been doing animation for 5 years and you have to be so skilled that you could put out a really good TV show on your own without any extra help. They will not train you up. It is so hard to get in the industry. So I quickly realized after graduating that animation probably wasn't going to be a very good option for me. So I was a little bit lost and I ended up in a call center job for a little while that I really disliked. I had jobs before that, but that call center job was awful. I barely made it through training. It was just horrendous. The first 2 calls that I took were people screaming at me and I was like, ma'am, I've been here for 10 minutes. Please calm down. I don't know what's happening any more than you do. It sucked at the time because obviously having that kind of job and being screamed at and realizing, oh my god, this could be me for the next 10 years is not an experience anyone wants. But it also gave me the push to finally decide to do something with myself, with my art, with my life basically. I sat down and thought about what I really wanted, and one thing I really wanted to do was YouTube still. I really like to do YouTube, but I was like, okay, well, what could I do YouTube videos of? Naturally, art came to mind. But I thought, I'm a bit realistic. I'm a realist. I was like, how am I actually going to make a living off of that. So I kind of tried to think up more ways that I could make a living. And one thing that I was seeing that was very, very popular, mind you, this was like just after COVID, was small businesses, because we all know small businesses became a very, very popular thing when COVID hit, because it's all people could do to earn a living was run a small business from home that could bring you some extra money. Next thing I know, I'm down a rabbit hole of like how I could make 6 figures in a year. Mind you, I come from a pretty poor background and I've never had a lot of money, so that kind of concept to me was like, oh my god, if I could do that, that'd be amazing. I'd be able to like help my mum pay bills, we could get out of debt. It was such like a big goal. I think I lost my little tether to reality and like being a realist, and I started dreaming really, really big. So that's exactly what I did. I took the money that I earned from that call center job. I had quite a bit of savings as well from university that I saved during university, and I managed to buy a printer, and I managed to buy, I think, a Cricut machine at that time as well, and a video camera so I could do YouTube videos. I started doing YouTube videos and they were mostly just art YouTube videos. The first couple I did, it was kind of like showing my art workspace. It was sharing my experience with university and like doing an art degree. But then when I finally set up my Etsy shop, I thought, hey, you know, I don't see a lot of people, because obviously at that time I was researching how to grow a small business and I couldn't find anyone that was at the beginning. I felt like everyone I was watching was already successful and making 6 figures, and I felt like that kind of sucks because I want to see what it's like from someone who's at my stage, and I couldn't find that. So I quickly stopped making art videos, and I thought, hey, what if I become that person that people can watch, that they can see from, you know, starting a small business from the very beginning, someone who people can relate to rather than, I guess, look up to. I published my first small business video, which was, I opened an Etsy shop, I think it was called, or I started a small business. That was my first small business video, and it did really well. Previously, I'd only been getting a couple hundred views from art videos. This video, I think I got a couple thousand, which was crazy because obviously I'd never seen those kinds of numbers before. So that was really exciting, and it got me even more excited to grow a small business because suddenly it felt like people cared about what I was saying and what I was doing. The first couple of months were really hard. I didn't know anything about making products. I didn't know what people wanted. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know how to do product photos. I didn't know how to do anything. I was learning everything from scratch, from marketing and making videos to product photos to using Etsy. I was trying like things like print on demand. I was trying to make products that weren't aligning with what I like. I was listening to a lot of people who make those videos where, like I said, they're like, oh, you can make 6 figures in a year if you just do these 3 steps, and I was following them, and that's not what I wanted. I think I was chasing money quite a lot throughout my whole business, and like I said, I don't blame myself for that because I do come from a poor background, and I feel like it's easy to get lost in the numbers, right? Like, especially online, everything is number based, you know, money, views, likes, comments, whatever. It's so easy to get swept up in how many people are like liking your videos or watching your videos, or, you know, how much money you're making from Etsy. And if someone's starting at the same time as you and making more than you suddenly feel like not so great anymore. And I didn't think about the kind of impact it was having on me at the time. But at the beginning, I really tried to remind myself it didn't matter so much, that I was growing, that, you know, even if I'm only getting 1 order a month, it doesn't matter so much because I've literally just started out. It takes people years to get successful online businesses. And so at the beginning, I actually think it was easier for me at the beginning because I had that excuse of like, well, it's not an excuse, it's just reality. But I had that kind of, I guess, nice little feeling of, oh, I'm just starting out though. So if I'm not doing well right now, that's completely fine. Over the next few months of when I opened my small business, I was starting to get into market stalls. I was trying different things. I feel like you could see my products getting slowly better and better and better. I went from doing really badly thought out art prints to doing really cute little keychains. And the sassy cats, they've always been a massive hit for my shop, but when I first brought them out, they were like the first product where I was like, oh my god, people really like the sassy cats. And it kind of helped me to figure out what I wanted my business to be. I wanted it to be cute, funny. I wanted to help people in like their day-to-day business lives, like work lives. Add a little color to it, add a little sparkle, a little sense of humor, you know, to their planners and notebooks, and just, I don't know, make things feel a little more whimsical, because people spend their entire lives working. I just wanted to add, you know, I guess a bit of color into people's everyday work lives, and that was kind of what I decided I wanted to be, and that's the route I went down. For the first, I think 6 months of growing a small business, I was able to live off my savings. I still lived with my mum at this point, and I was having a great time. I loved it so much. But when I had to get a job, that's when things started getting a bit harder for me. At first, I worked as a barista part-time. Now, I thought part-time work would be fine, but if you have ever been a barista, you know being a barista, full-time, part-time, whatever, it's not easy. It is such a hard job. I know it's not the hardest job in the world. I'm not saying doctors have it easier or whatever. Obviously they don't, but I think being a barista is hard. People get very angry over coffee, and I've worked in retail before. I've worked in like supermarkets. Being a barista was worse. I feel like people are actually more angry about getting their coffee than they are doing their food shop, and I don't know why that is, but it was very tiring. I thought working part-time, it would give me enough money to, you know, pay my half of the bills, help my mom out a little bit, maybe treat myself every now and then, put money into my business. It was enough for that, but so I thought it would be okay. I thought it wouldn't take up too much of my time, but when I was getting home from my shifts, I was so exhausted that I wasn't able to focus on my business as much, and I found myself losing a lot of days to working and then coming home and being so tired that I couldn't get anything done. And then the next day when I was having a day off, I'd have to like work double the amount as what I would have because I was catching up from the day before. So it was kind of piling on top of me all the time, where I was, you know, trying to learn how to run a business, doing markets, publishing videos, publishing new products, doing product photos, trying to learn like financing and budgeting, and just all this stuff was piling on top of me, and it was becoming very tiring very quickly. Regardless though, my business continued to grow, and at this point, about 6 months to a year into my business, I was seeing a lot of growth. I was seeing my YouTube grow quite a lot. I had quite a few successful videos at the time. People were telling me how much they really appreciated seeing someone who was, you know, in the same position as them, not someone who was already successful and living at large and, you know, living their best lives, someone who was working towards their dreams. And I really liked that. I really liked that feeling of making people feel like they weren't alone, because running a small business is very hard. I like that feeling of inspiring people. I didn't expect to inspire people because I was so early into running a business. I did not expect people to message me saying like, oh, you really inspired me to start my own business. I didn't expect that because I thought, well, what's so inspiring about me? I'm just in my bedroom trying to like start a business and I get like 1 order a month, you know? But a lot of people really appreciated it. And I think that kind of kept me going through, though I was working and getting extremely exhausted during that period, it kind of kept me going through it because people kept messaging me saying how inspirational it was and how much I've helped them and how I've given them confidence to start their own businesses. So it was a really good feeling, and I'm the first to admit that you guys are probably the first and only reason that I actually continued my business for so long, was because your support and just feeling like I was inspiring people just helped. It gave me the energy, you know? I'd wake up super tired and someone would message me and say, hey, you inspired me to start my own business. Thank you so much. And then suddenly I had energy again. That's kind of how it kept me going for so long. So at this point, I was growing quite a lot. I had quite a few products. I think at that point, I maybe had like 50 products on Etsy, but I was doing market stalls regularly and I was seeing a bit more income from that. I went from my first market stall was in like February or January, I think it was, and I made like £30, not profit. That was just £30 for the entire day, and the table was £10, so not a great start. But then as I kept going and I kept growing my stock and I kept making like more of an online presence, I ended up I think August of that year, I ended up making like £60 on average each market stall. Sometimes more than that. I think I would make like sometimes even 100, 120 that year at market stalls, which was such a good feeling because people were buying my products. However, being a barista and working full time was just too hard for me. And again, like I said, my weekends were mostly took up by doing market stalls. So I was becoming extremely, extremely burnt out. And I decided to quit my barista job. I loved people I worked with as well, and I really liked the free drinks. So I was a little upset, but the mental and physical exhaustion that comes with being a barista, I just couldn't handle it. That barista job did not pay enough as well. I was getting like maybe £800 a month, which is is not a lot, even when you're living with your mum, because I had to help her with bills, obviously. It's just us two, so I was helping as much as I could while trying to grow a small business, while trying to like pay bills with like what little money I had. It was a tough time. I thought, you know, this isn't working out. I'm physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and I don't really have much money to even show for it. So I decided to get a new job, and this is when I started working full-time along growing a small business. I found a job working 5 days a week in an office. I was just packing orders all day, every day, which was fine. It was a nice little job. I did not like the manager. She was horrible, but the job itself was very, very chill. It didn't take a lot of mental stress, assuming the manager wasn't in, and it didn't take a lot of physical stress, but suddenly I'd gone from having like 4 days a week that I could focus on my small business to just 2. And every Sunday I'd go see my family, so technically it was just 1 day a week that I was able to actually focus on my small business. But I was making twice as much money as what I was at my barista job, so I was able to put a lot more money into my business. It just sucked that I had no time now and I was still burning out. So, like I said, at this point, it was like a year into having a business. I was growing pretty well, not super big or anything. I was still probably only getting a couple of orders a month, but that was fine because I was still only a year into my small business, and I was very well aware at this point that growing a small business takes many years. It takes people sometimes 4, 5, 6 years to grow a small business, so I was totally okay with that. I made a lot of the products at home as much as I could. I actually got a business loan. I can't believe I forgot this part. In August that year, I got a business loan and I bought a sublimation machine and I bought a sublimation tumblers, heat press thing. And I thought, oh my god, mugs are super in right now. Tumblers are super in right now. Let's do that. That would be awesome. I can put my designs on them. They're going to sell super well. I can make mugs, tumblers, glass tumblers. It's going to be awesome. This is where the money's going to come in. I spent all that money and time. I didn't spend my whole business loan on that. I did do quite a few manufacturer orders that year, and I bought tote bags and stuff, but that was where most of the money went to. I also bought a new camera. That's where the money went to. But I thought it was going to bring in a lot of money, essentially. I thought it would all come back to me. Tumblers that year, like honestly, the same month that I launched tumblers, Stanley Cups became really popular, and tumblers dropped really bad and they were no longer trending. And one thing I realized from that was that you've really got to know what's trending and you've got to be on trends very, very quickly when you're running a small business. Regardless though, I was still growing slowly but surely and I still felt pretty good. I had a lot of months though where I did feel very hopeless. I think one thing people don't, I guess, prepare you for when you run a small business is that it's never ever steady. There are some days where you might get 2 orders and there are some days where you might get 50. It's insane how much it can change. It's insane how one month you can make £400 and then the next month you can make 5. It can be that bad. You are never guaranteed to constantly get a certain amount of money from running a small business, and I think I never prepared myself for that. So when I was seeing the highs, like when I was going to market stalls and making £200 and then going to the next market stall and making 50, it didn't feel good. When I was posting a video on YouTube and it was getting like 10,000 views, but then the next one was getting like 1, it wasn't a good feeling. When I was doing launches and one launch did really, really well and brought in a lot of money and the next one flopped, it didn't feel good. And I was in this cycle, and I feel like every time something good happens, you kind of forget, like, okay, well, just because it's good now doesn't mean it won't get bad again. Like, it's a roller coaster, and I just kept, like, I guess I just wasn't mentally preparing myself for the fact that it might go back down again. And it did. Every single time, I'd end up back in the same place. It was hard, and especially when you're putting in so much work. Like I said, I was working full-time 5 days a week, and spending every single little piece of free time that I had doing videos, product photos, launches, everything that I had to do to grow a small business, I was doing it and I was not seeing the benefits of it. I was not seeing the rewards that I guess a lot of people want to see. The big reason why I wanted to start a small business was because I wanted to be creative. I wanted to work for myself, work from home. I wanted to be creative and live a life that, you know, was truly me, I guess. But running a small business, another thing people never told me and never warned me about, was that having a small art business is like 90% business, 10% art. and that sucks. You think it's the other way around, it's not. It's so much learning and doing new things, because especially if you're doing everything alone as well, maybe things would have been easier if I had a partner to do all of the budgeting and finance stuff for me, and like, you know, doing all the trend researches, and that wouldn't have been so bad. But for me, I just wanted to create videos and I just wanted to make art, and that was it. And I was realizing very quickly, probably going into year 2, that I maybe wasn't doing that as much, but I still really liked running a small business, so it didn't necessarily stop me. It didn't make me think like I need to quit or slow down. I just thought it'd be cooler if I could focus more on art, and I think I just told myself I was gonna do that, and then obviously didn't, because that's not how businesses work. You need to run the business. You need to focus on the business side of it. Anyway, I'm probably getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's pull it back in. Year 2 of running a small business, I was still really enjoying it. At this point, like I said, I was growing quite a lot. I was doing anime conventions and Comic-Cons and stuff at this point, which I really enjoyed doing. But markets have always been, and conventions have always been super exhausting for me, but I always enjoyed doing them, and it did bring me in more money than Etsy at times, so it was nice to do those, and I felt very good. I liked it. People liked the market vlogs, they liked the convention vlogs, I liked doing them, but it's hard, obviously, because I was working full-time at that point, and I was just getting very tired, but I just kept going because I thought eventually I'm going to get to the point where I can go full-time with my business and I'll be able to relax a little more. I won't need to work so hard anymore. But I kept pushing myself, and that's not a good thing to do. So I was kind of, I guess, the burnout was still building up, and I was still trying to ignore it, because in my head I was like, okay, soon, in a couple of years, or hopefully even a year's time, I'll be full-time with my business. I won't have to work so much anymore. I can relax, I can spend more time with family and friends and blah blah blah. And that's what I kept telling myself, so I kept going. At this point, in the beginning of 2024, second year of running a business, I ended up leaving my job with the other person that I was working full-time for, because the manager wasn't very good. I'm gonna be honest, I have job hopped a lot, but that's because I just don't believe in staying in a job that makes you miserable. There are better opportunities out there for me, and I refuse to work for someone who is like that. So I ended up leaving that job, but I found a really amazing job because of it, which is why I think you should never settle. Because I left that job because I hated that manager. I found a job that I'm still working it 2 years later, and I freaking love my job. I love the people I work with. I love the job itself. It's absolutely perfect for me. So yeah, I found a job that was much better. This job is a 4-day job, 4 days a week. So it was a little less money than my last job, but I loved it. I love the people. I love the work. It's work from home too. Well, it's hybrid. I can go in the office if I want, but it's work from home as well, which the other job wasn't. So when I was finishing at 4 o'clock, I could just literally turn around and start editing a video, or turn around and start doing product designs. I was saving, I had so much more time now suddenly, and I also had enough money still, so it was great. It was awesome. It was like I finally found the perfect balance of like time and money. So I felt really, really good going into year 2. And year 2, actually, I saw a massive increase in subscribers again. Massive. It was, I saw a good 1,000 subscribers in the first 2 months of like the 2024. It was super awesome. I feel like my Etsy orders were getting a lot more. I was feeling so hopeful at this point. I was like, this is it. This is like, I'm starting to finally take off a little bit. I'm starting to see a lot more growth, not just in the business, but in myself and in YouTube. And it was just so awesome. But I was still burning out. And like I said, you have those highs, and the high was honestly, because that high went on for so many months, and I was doing so good for so many months. When it got to summer and things started like declining a little bit, it wasn't great. It didn't feel good, because it felt like I was just going back to square one again, and I didn't know what to do about it. Suddenly I was getting less views on YouTube, and suddenly I was not getting as many sales. And like I said, you should never focus on numbers, but when you have to look at numbers because you need to know, how to grow, you need to know where you're going wrong to get better, right? It's hard not to focus on them. It's so hard to like find that balance of like, I need to look at the numbers so I can grow, but I shouldn't fixate on the numbers. It's a hard process, and I didn't realize at the time how much I was focusing on numbers. So going into summer 2024, halfway through year 2 of running a small business, I slowly began to realize that things were not growing the way I thought they would. I, for some reason, had it in my head that it would take 3 years to grow a small business, or at least grow it to the point where I could go part-time with it. And it wasn't. I still wasn't seeing much profit. And granted, I chose to put money back into my business. I chose to put it all back into my business. I was making money from YouTube at this point, but I still wasn't seeing a lot of Etsy sales. YouTube was still my main source of income, which is weird because my YouTube was growing a small business, but I wasn't seeing many Etsy sales. And the reason for that, if I'm being brutally honest with myself, is I just wasn't good at marketing. I wasn't good at the business side of having a small business. It wasn't for me because I wanted to be an artist, not a business owner. But I was a business owner that also happened to be an artist instead. Like, lessons had to be learned, and I had to learn the hard way that I kind of wasn't doing anything right. and to put it lightly, I liked the product designs that I made, but other people just didn't seem to buy them, and I didn't know why. And maybe it was marketing, maybe it's the product designs themselves, I don't know. I think most of what I liked about running a small business was making the videos. It was the community. And I think that's what kept me going for so long. I think the actual business side of it at this point, I was kind of done with it. I didn't like making the product designs. I didn't really like shipping orders as much. I didn't like any of that. And at this point as well in my business, this is when the EU stuff happened. So the people from the UK could no longer ship to the EU without a representative, which cost a lot of money. So that was like how many countries suddenly I was no longer able to ship to. And at this point, Europe was a big chunk of my revenue. So that was a really bad feeling on top of the feeling of like, oh, things are going back downhill again. That's fun. That's great. I wasn't doing very well at that time. Ever the optimist, I just decided to, try again. I was like, okay, new strategy. We're gonna really focus on product designs. We're gonna see and like really up them again, see what I can do. I was trying to incorporate text into my product designs at this point. I was making washi tapes, notebooks. I was really, really expanding my products at this point. And at first, it went pretty well. People seemed to really like the new product designs, and I was so happy with that. But after a while, I'd say probably the first launch I did with the new kind of designs and the new strategy went really well. The second was okay. The third, not so much. This was going into year 3 now. So this was the beginning of 2025. So this year, by the way. And then, as you know, this year also, on top of all of that, of all those bad feelings of like, oh, my views are going down, products aren't selling, I don't know what's wrong, I can't, like, I'm trying so hard to grow, but nothing seems to be working. I'm not really enjoying a lot of what I'm doing because a lot of what I'm doing isn't art and making videos. It's now admin stuff and sitting at a desk all day. And one of my big issues as well was that I was almost 3 years into running a small business, and I did not feel like I was any further forward than what I was when I'd first started, or like last year, for example. I felt like I was actually doing worse than the previous year. So that was not a good feeling. But I kept trying. I thought, maybe I just need to focus more on being artsy and maybe I'll be happier then. So I tried to focus more on making products and making videos and doing less of the other stuff. And I spent most of the beginning of 2025 working towards a big summer launch, like a big summer launch. I'm talking 50 products and opening a Shopify, because I thought, you know what? Etsy isn't working very well for me, and I feel like the traffic that I do drive to Etsy is coming from my YouTube anyway. Let's open a Shopify. And I know quite a few people had asked me before if I'm going to open one because they don't like using Etsy, or they just don't, I don't know, for whatever reason, they just didn't want to buy from the Etsy shop, and that's absolutely fine. So I thought, you know what, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe this is the boost I need. Maybe I need this. Maybe this will help me learn more, grow more. We'll see how it goes. So I spent literally 6 months of this year working towards this big launch that I was like, this is it. This is going to be the big launch. And I probably did put too much on this launch and too much on myself. But I thought, this is it. This is going to be the big launch, big Shopify launch. It's going to be so many new products I was proud of as well. Products that I was proud of. I really liked those products. And then I did the launch and I got maybe 20 orders, which actually not even that. Let's be real. It was probably more like 15 if I'm being honest. After spending 6 months of doing a huge launch and getting 15 orders, that feeling was not fun. But it just felt like every other downward spiral that I've had in running a small business, where I was like, okay, it's not went well, but I'll pick myself back up. It'll be fine. Let's just keep going, keep moving. And then the USA decided to introduce tariffs. And suddenly, on top of having a massive failed launch, no longer being able to ship to Europe, and also feeling like most of my time was spent doing things I didn't even enjoy anyway, I was no longer able to ship to the US, which was the only other international country that actually bought from me. I had to take a step back. I don't know what was going through my head during those few weeks, to be honest, but I took a break. I just thought, let's just take a break. Let's just take a break, step back, no YouTube, no nothing, no small business, no thinking of anything. Just do what you want for the next 2 weeks. Live how you want to live, play video games, rot in bed all day, doesn't matter. Just take care of yourself, do what you need to do. For the first time in almost 3 years, I spent a few weeks just focusing on myself, and it felt really good. I was very tired during those few weeks. I was after work, instead of spending it working and spending my weekends working for my small business, only to see nothing in return for it. And for the first time in years, I was drawing what I wanted to draw. I was playing video games again. I was spending more time with family and friends again. I was living for me, not for my small business. And it felt really good. The thought of closing down my small business didn't really occur to me during these 2 weeks. Maybe I just need to push my small business behind, like to the back, right? Like have the YouTube, do the YouTube stuff, because I love doing YouTube and I love being creative. Have an artsy YouTube, and then the small business can run in the background, right? Like it can just, if people order, great. If they don't, whatever. I don't spend all my time and energy putting it into the small business and having it be wasted all the time, because that's what it felt like. Maybe it wasn't wasted, but it felt like it was to me, you know? It just felt like for the past year, I'd been putting all my time, energy, effort, love, dedication, everything I had into my small business, and seeing nothing in return for it. Like, I thought at this point, like, I would be at least maybe part-time, or at least getting enough money where it was like, okay, I have, you know, enough to sustain my business and maybe a little bit for me, but I was only able to sustain my business. That was it. And it sucked. That feeling was awful. So having 2 weeks to myself, it was very eye-opening. And I thought, you know, I'll just push my small business behind, right? Like it can still be there. I'll still push out products every now and then, but the art will come first. And that's what I decided to do. And I am aware that if you guys were, you know, there during this whole period on YouTube, my videos were very much like where I've been, pivoting, and then now I'm telling you I'm shutting down my business. I'm aware it's been very all over the place, but that's what my brain's been like. It's been all over the place. Deciding to shut down something that I've been working towards and dreaming of for so long was not easy. So what was the final push? Final push was actually me, essentially. Obviously, everything else that happened this year wasn't great. You know, the US stuff, obviously the EU already happened, and I wasn't able to ship to most countries, and then obviously my big launch failed. That all sucks, but those are things previously I would have bounced back from eventually. But taking that break, I realized, like, I don't spend a lot of time on myself anymore. I was actually so happy not working on my small business during that break that I had, that I was like, I had to question myself, do I actually like running a small business? And the answer, I debated on this for so many weeks, but the answer was no, I do not. I do not enjoy running a small business. I like the idea of it, and in an ideal world, I'd have a partner that I could just, they do the business stuff, and I'd just be there doodling and drawing and making comics all day, and I'd get paid a decent amount of money for that, you know? I didn't like running a small business. I liked the YouTube side of it. I liked the small business vlogs. I liked bringing you guys along with me. I liked talking to you guys. I liked meeting you guys at market stalls. I liked seeing people light up when they see my artwork and my products, but I didn't actually enjoy anything else of it. I just didn't. Even packing orders to a degree, like the shipping and stuff. I hate shipping, all of the tariffs and freaking costs for shipping, and just, it's awful. It's so stressful. I just didn't like it. The final push was just asking myself, do I want to run a small business? I don't want to run a small business. After kind of doing some soul searching, I realized I don't think having a small business was ever for me. The artsy side of it, 100%. I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to share my artwork with the world, and that's not going to change. I'm still going to be here sharing my art in many different forms. But the business side of it is going. I don't want to be a business. I want to be an artist. I don't want to be a brand. I want to be a creative person. I never really disliked having a small business, and there's a lot of like really great memories around it, and the community that we built was so amazing, and I absolutely loved that, but it just didn't turn out to be the right thing in the end for me. I don't regret it. I hope this doesn't come across as like a sad video where I'm like, oh, I wasted 3 years of my life, because I don't feel that way at all. Having a small business has taught me a lot about myself, about what I want out of life. And I can't help but think about how privileged I am to actually be able to say, like, I tried. I had the chance to try something like this, because a lot of people get too scared to do it. A lot of people back out of it. A lot of people, you know, don't have the money to start a small business. I had the chance to try. I was privileged enough to be able to chase a dream, and it didn't work out. And I found out it wasn't for me in the end. And I'm kind of back to square one in my life, where I'm like, what exactly do I want to be? I don't know, but I'm actually okay with that. I know I want to make videos. I know I like making videos, and I know I like doing art. So that's what I'm doing currently. And honestly, I'm enjoying it so much more than doing small business stuff. It's so nice. I get to spend my weekends creating artwork that I actually like, that I actually enjoy. It's so nice. I really thought that when I finally decided to shut down my small business, that I'd feel sad, I'd feel conflicted, that I'd kind of be humming and hawing about it, like, should I do it, should I not? But the truth is, I actually didn't feel any of that. When I decided to shut down my shop, I felt relief. So there's no doubt in my mind that this is the right path for me. Doing art and making art videos has sparked my creativity again. It's sparked my passion for creating and doing art. And I know that my videos don't get as much views now because I'm doing the art. To be honest, for the first time in 3 years, I actually don't care about the numbers. I'm not doing it for the numbers. I'm doing it because I genuinely like doing it. And that feeling is so freaking good. Like, I make videos because I want to make them, not because I feel like I have to or because I'm chasing a number. I'm doing it because I like to do it. This isn't goodbye, because I'm still planning to be here. Abhinova's still going to be here. I still plan to make comics, do coloring pages. I still plan to make videos. I just will be doing it for me, not the numbers. I hope this doesn't come across as a sad video, because I did post on Instagram kind of like a summary of what I'm saying here about why I've decided to shut down my shop. A lot of people messaged, even though I said in the summary, I was like, this is not a sad post, I'm happy to be doing this, like, this is the right path for me. A lot of people were like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, that's so sad. And I get it, like, I know a lot of you are sad that you're, you know, not gonna have the small business vlogs anymore, and that's totally okay. But you don't need to be sorry for me. I am very happy to be doing what I'm doing. I feel happier. I feel like I've got more time for myself. I feel like I've got more time for friends and family and in me. I feel like I live more in the moment now than previously. Whereas previously, I feel like I was living for the future. I was living to chase a dream that could potentially happen in the future. I was living to achieve a goal in the future, which is fine. I know a lot of people do that, but I think there's a healthy balance there. Like, if you're chasing a goal, a future goal, you should also be remembering to have days where you're living in the present with your family, your friends, you're doing things for you in the moment. Whereas I wasn't doing that. So now I'm living more in the present. I'm spending more time with family, friends. I'm getting creative when I want. If I don't want to, you know, work, I don't, because I have the privilege to be able to say that now, because previously I just forced myself to get things done. I'm being a lot kinder to myself. I feel like I've got more energy. I feel like I'm smiling a lot more again. So this isn't a sad thing for me anyway. I'm very happy to be doing what I'm doing. And like I said, my videos aren't going to go anywhere. They're going to be different. And I appreciate probably not all of you are going to be interested in them from now on. That's totally understandable. Not a lot of you subscribe to me for art videos. You subscribe to me for business videos. So I totally get that. But for me personally, I have found what I want to do, and the numbers don't matter anymore, and it's so nice not to be living for a number, you know? It's time for a new adventure, and I hope that if any of you are interested in following me along on my art journey, that I hope you will do that. I hope we can be creative together, enjoy creative, cozy hobbies. I've got a lot of cool art videos planned. I will say this as well, I am hosting? There's a big clearance sale on my Etsy shop right now, so I'm trying to say everything is currently 50% off, and once they're gone, they're gone. I am not making any more of anything else. So if there is anything you've got your eye on, or if you just want some really cheap stationery because everything is 50% off, then, you know, please go check out my Etsy shop. It's in the description. It's right in time for Christmas, so if you know anyone that loves stationery and you want some cheap Christmas presents, then go check out my shop. It's actually kind of ironic. I'm actually getting more orders now than I ever have before, now that I'm shutting down. But yes, everything is going. They won't be coming back, so if you want anything, go to my Etsy shop, check it out. Get yourself some cheap, cute stationery. I hope this video wasn't too long. I know I've rambled quite a bit. It's so hard to condense down the entire story of like growing and running a small business and my experience with it and how I felt during it and everything in between. It's so hard to condense down 3 years into like 30 minutes, but hopefully it wasn't too bad. I'm very excited for this new adventure and I'm already loving the art videos so much more. I feel so much more true to myself. I feel happier. I feel more relieved. This is the right path for me. So one last thing I want to say is thank you guys so much if you sticking with me through my small business journey. I don't regret a second of it. Like every single second of my small business journey was so, not all of it was fun, not all of it was even happy, but it was so good for me. I think I learned so much, I grew so much. Having your guys' support was amazing. You guys are what kept me going through a lot of it, to be honest. I think I would have shut my Etsy shop down a lot quicker if it hadn't have been for your guys' support, the constant reassurance, encouragement, tips, tricks, whatever advice. Like, thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey and for growing a small business with me. And to all of you who are starting your own small business or growing your own small business, just remember to look after yourself, to take care of yourself. Things get hard. It's okay to take breaks. Breaks are very important, I've learned. But I wish all of you good luck on your small business journeys. So this will probably be the last video I ever talk about my small business. So that's weird. Thank you guys so much for watching and following me on my journey. But new adventures await. Bye!